My name is Haruki. I am 98 years old, and this is Emiko, my only friend left in this world. Tonight, you are not just hearing music, you are hearing memory. You are hearing ghosts. I was only 18 when the sky disappeared. August 6th, 1945. We were in Hiroshima, music students. Just children, really. I played violin, she the piano. We were practicing in a classroom together. We were supposed to perform a duet that afternoon at school, a simple melody we had written together. It was innocent, gentle. It had nothing to do with war. I had spent weeks building up the courage to tell her I loved her. But before I ever could, the sun fell from the sky. There was no warning, no sound, just a white light so bright it felt like we had been erased. Time didn't exist anymore. I remember opening my eyes and not understanding what I was seeing. I thought I had died. Everyone I knew, gone. I was buried for hours. When they pulled me out, my hands were burned, my left eye blind. My violin case splintered like firewood. I never saw Emiko again, or so I thought. I spent the next 70 years believing she had died with the others. I never married. I never played again. Every note reminded me of the life we lost, of what I didn't say. Then, 7 years ago, a letter arrived. A survivors organization in Japan reached out, said someone named Emiko Sato had asked if I was still alive. I cried for 3 days before I could even call her. We met in silence. There were no words that could reach the pain between us. She had survived too. She had burns down her spine, lost her parents, her baby brother. She thought I was dead too. We sat on a bench, just two old people, broken by history. And then I said, "Do you remember the song?" She smiled, a tiny smile, and she said, "Yes, I never forgot." So we played. We hadn't touched our instruments in decades. Our hands didn't move the way they used to, but the music came back like a river after the drought. We're not here tonight to impress anyone. We don't have long left on this earth. What you're about to hear is the song we were meant to play 80 years ago. The song of two children who never got to say goodbye. A lullaby for the dead. A prayer for peace. We play tonight for the ones who didn't make it out of the rubble, and for the little versions of ourselves that never got to grow up. Thank you for letting us share our last song. Good luck.
했습니다.